who came out to honor my dad, my fabulous sister, and her husband, Karen and Sanjay Mahida. Their little daughter, Izzy. My big brother, who had the privilege of playing for my dad, Steve Sinasi, and his whole family, Sue, little Maddie, and the namesake, little Ken Sinasi Jr. His older son, Brett, and my sister, Linda, and my older sister, Franny, the doctor, and most important, you got to meet my mom. And Mom shared Coach with a lot of people, and I'll get through this, you guys. It's important to know your heritage as far as who came before you, because it gives you a little idea where you're taking your heritage in the future. And Dad was actually the first head coach at Wayne Valley. When he came here in 1966. It was just Wayne High School, and then split off Wayne Hills and Wayne Valley, and really started a legacy which continues to grow today. You already have 3 members as far as coaches in the Hall of Fame, all doing a great job. And we utilized my dad a little over 8 years ago. We told a few stories, and Dad was all about relationships. And his mentor as far as the coach was Paul Brown. That was actually my godfather, how I got named Paul, and he was a real tough coach. So when you're part of the Sinasi family, you had to learn that you had to be a little tougher than normal. And I remember when my sister Karen broke her wrist, and my father gave her one of these, and she realized that meant it was a break in 2 places. She wasn't allowed to cry. She got the phrase, which a lot of the players got, which was stick it on your arm. And that was the Sinasi. And I see my friends are back there. My father would call him down to the office and punch him in the chest, knock the wind out of him. He said, "What's that for?" He goes, "I know you're going to do something wrong. That's for the next thing you do wrong." So I mean, a few stories. My sister, I remember, jumped out of a tree and broke her leg. My father's expression when he came home, "What, you think you can fly?" So there was very little excuses. When you look at coaching wasn't something my father did. A coach is something my father was. Right. And the coaching meetings were over the house. I mean, from 6 years old, I remember if we won, we got to go out to pizza. And I don't think they have this technology today, but we went down to Patterson because the films were being developed. And they would sit there with that clicker, and I would learn all the players' names if they did good things or bad things watching game films with that little clicker. And then my mom would open the house up, not just for coaches meetings, but there was always good cake around when there was a coaches meeting going on, and all the coaches would come out of the house. But the senior dinner, this is very elaborate as far as the way to open the season. We had a little barbecue at the house, and the first time my mom asked my father how many players are coming, she said 15. She goes, "These guys are pretty big. Let me get 15 pounds of chicken." And a half hour later, my father comes and says, I need some more chicken." He goes, "Well, that's it." He goes, "What do you mean that's it?" Because I got 15 pounds. And that's where my mom learned what football players can actually eat. And it was relationships that my dad loved so much about his players. At his funeral, I don't know if it was 20 or 30 people that came up to me and said, "Dad was like a second father to me." And my mom told me a story earlier, and this is just the guy he was. It was a tradition back in the 60s that the seniors, you know those fancy coats that they give you, those senior jackets. Well, you had to play on the team, and then the Board of Education actually would buy the seniors their jackets. And my father had one player that played on the team that got drafted and went over to Korea to fight for our country. The Board of Education decided they're not going to pay for his jacket since he's not here. So my father, age 23, went to the Board of Education and said, this guy's fighting for our country. Could you give him his jacket? And 2 days after he died, that guy read the obituary and sent my mom a letter and said that guy wore his jacket to every football game that he ever went to since. And it was always about looking for the other people. I mean, he went to bat to put more players in different colleges. Continued, I mean, you mentioned Dick Vitale. He said he would have turned out to be a bum. My father didn't pin him against the locker and said, better straighten your butt out. And he did that for a lot of people. I mean, we started to know the players by name. I mean, when we sat around at the table, we just heard stories. I think Linda came up with Paroli Macaroli with the red soft hair. I think, and then, I mean, and he wouldn't have been too good with today's Twitter world. I remember the way the newspaper got the report about how he felt about the season. They would call when we were sitting down at dinner. And I remember Augie Leo was one of the famous writers, and I think it was the year you were going back in 67 or 68, and he said, what do you think the team's going to do this year? And my father said, you know, it's kind of a rebuilding year, and, you know, we're probably just trying to, you know, 500, and then he gets off the phone. I said, Dad, I thought you said everybody that you had from last year came back, and you even got a better team. And he said, yeah, but you don't tell that to the newspaper. And that was part of the 25 consecutive victories he had. And the last story I'll give you was about the integrity of his character. And one of the teams he had just two unbelievable tight ends. And the newspaper called him up and said, hey, Coach, your quarterback's already on the All-State team. Which tight end do you want to put on the All-State team? He goes, well, what's the problem? He goes, well, you have two outstanding tight ends, but this is the All-State team. Which one do you want on the All-State team? He said, well, I want both of them on the All-State team. He goes, well, it's for the whole state. We can't put two tight ends on the All-State team from the same school. He goes, well, do you have a better tight end than these two guys? And he said, no. He goes, well, put them both on, or put none of them on. If they're the two best, they belong on the team. A week later, the team comes out, and both of the players were All-State. And it was constantly going back for individuals and going the extra mile. But he was a coach through and through. From the day he started coaching and didn't make it to the NFL, he was going to help as many people along the way try to get their lives straightened out and get on the right path to be a coach. So when you bring a coach into the Hall of Fame, you're bringing a winning tradition of creating great relationships and doing wonderful things, and maybe sacrificing a little different in some other areas, but always keeping those kids first. So it's an honor for me to talk about it, and I think everybody's lucky to have Coach Ken Zanowski in the Hall of Fame.